Hello, class. This is the invisible teacher again. Now, we saw how Swinburne was overlooked and more or less written out of the canon, and I'm still wanting to relate this to Swinburne. I still want to do the comparison of Christmas carols. Um, but for now, I have indicated on Facebook that it would be nice if we looked next at Nikolay Gogol's Diary of a Madman, the short story, and Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Match Girl. Now, I'm going to record this speech talk in sections. I have been going straight through the talks without modifying them much, but my circumstances have changed somewhat, so I'm going to do this in fragments and put it together later. What I wanted to say first was you will notice that with both stories, if you've read them by now, we have the inverse, in a way, of the Cinderella story. Now, the Cinderella story itself has got class elements to it. There is jealousy there. There's jealousy of the two ugly sisters of Cinderella because she's more beautiful than them. There's jealousy perhaps within Cinderella that her two stepsisters are going to balls and social events, and really no wonder she's jealous. Somehow she manages, it's like a Barbara Cartland story. She manages to catch the eye of a handsome prince, but then unfortunately her beautiful carriage and dress is turned into a pumpkin before he has the quest of looking for her and finding his true love again. So in the way we see in the Diary of a Madman that inverted snobbery brought out really terribly in the translation that we've been looking at. Um, really, also, it seems as though the narrator of the story, the so called madman, is actually maybe not exactly in love, but maybe in complete admiration for the director. The male, the man in charge, and he tries to. We can see the process of him trying to subvert his admiration and love for the director onto the director's daughter, perhaps so that it will be more acceptable. Yes, we are looking at two inverses of the Cinderella story. Um, if we look at the little match girl, we see how actually it's New Year's Eve, not Christmas Eve, when she goes out. She's been beaten by her father. She's Swinburne comes into this as well because we wonder what kind of God would allow that kind of thing to happen for her. She's been told to sell matches and not to come back home until she sold them. And she experiences a dream world partly as an escape from the harsh reality. Someone steals, actually is awful enough to steal one of her slippers. A bit like reminiscent of the Cinderella story, the opposite of it. Someone you will see steals one of her slippers, and then she takes the other one off so that she doesn't look odd. And then, of course, she's barefoot, and people are probably avoiding her and demonizing her because she's barefoot. We see how much fashion does come into the Nikolay Gogol story as well. First of all, the so-called madman himself is poorly dressed. He is looking shabby. He can't afford the best pair of shoes, and he's scornful of the men who can and wants to undermine them and prove he's better than them, because he himself feels at a disadvantage. And the daughter of the director wears beautiful dresses. He in order to make himself into an admirer of her rather than a father, he fantasizes about her dresses and makeup and so on. In a way, he really, at one point, he really is shows some invective, almost misogynistic hatred of women in the makeup and dress line, that reminded me of some terrible revenge tragedies I had to read as a university student. But I haven't yet read The Diary of a Nobody as well, by the same man who wrote A Ragged Trousers Did Philanthropist. I was aware of that book. I'm going to order, probably from Amazon, since all the bookshops are now closed, when I get some more money, a copy of The Diary of a Nobody, which I think will fit into the pattern of what what we are about to discuss. That is too apparently an overlooked book. But to return to Nabokov, no, not Nabokov. Gosh, I'm getting muddled up. To return to Gogol. Yes, we see that the madman doesn't actually, in that translation, you can see well, he doesn't actually become the king of Spain. He suffers from delusions of grandeur, what would be called delusions of grandeur. But it is absolutely explicable that he should begin to suffer from delusions of grandeur as an escape from the torture that is directed on him by what we assume, what I certainly assume, is a psychiatrist in a mental hospital near, before the end, as he starts deteriorating. We're told about the cold baths and so on. I think he's probably in a mental institution. We see that with the madman, he wants to go to the ball in a way. He Other people go to the ball. There is a ball mentioned, but he never makes it. He wants to marry the director's daughter. He never makes it, and he never goes to the ball. Instead, he's made a scapegoat, really, for probably because these sort of this inverted snobbery and this terrible criticism and demonizing of other people is probably going on in the society he lives in, and in a way it's also a satire of that. Some of the letters that he reads, which are sort of attempts at creative writing almost not make fun of, but going to the territory of some of the Russian society novels. Right, listen, I'm going to leave it there for now. I haven't gone into that much detail about it all, but I'm not going to make this in separate parts. I'm going to leave it there for now and see if I can upload this. I think I've given you a good direction of what I wanted to say for now, and I'll hear what you want to say if you would like to comment.